In a striking intersection of technology, defense, and politics, the Pentagon has scheduled a briefing for Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur behind SpaceX and Tesla, regarding potential military strategies against China. This unprecedented move has raised eyebrows within political and defense circles, especially given Musk's expansive role as an advisor to President Trump and his significant business interests tied to government contracts. As reported by the New York Times, the briefing, initially set for March 21, 2025, was described as focusing on the U.S. military's plans for a potential conflict with China, a topic of increasing concern as geopolitical tensions escalate. However, shortly after the news broke, both Trump and Pentagon officials swiftly denied that the session would involve any military strategies regarding China. China will not even be mentioned or discussed, Trump claimed in a late-night post on social media, casting doubt on the briefing's original intent. The implications of providing Musk with access to sensitive military information are profound. As the chief executive of companies that are key suppliers to the Pentagon, Musk's dual role as a defense contractor and presidential advisor raises significant ethical questions about conflicts of interest. Critics have voiced concerns that granting him insights into operational plans could compromise national security, as foreign actors could gain valuable knowledge about U.S. military strategies. Operational plans, known in military parlance as OPLANs, are among the most confidential documents within the defense establishment. They detail how the U.S. would respond to various military threats, including specific tactics and targets. Given Musk's background in technology and his position as a leader in defense contracting, understanding these plans could provide strategic advantages for his businesses, particularly as they intersect with national defense initiatives. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who invited Musk to the Pentagon, has emphasized that the meeting would focus on fostering innovation and efficiencies rather than discussing classified military strategies. However, the choice of venue, a secure conference room typically reserved for high-level military discussions, suggests that the nature of the briefing may not be entirely informal. Musk's involvement with the Trump administration has been characterized by a push for substantial cuts to federal spending, particularly in defense. His team, the Department of Government Efficiency (DOGE), is reportedly focusing on identifying cost-saving measures within the military budget. This raises the question of how much insight Musk requires regarding military operations to effectively advocate for budget cuts. While Musk has publicly supported the idea of streamlining defense spending, such as advocating against the purchase of high-cost items like F-35 fighter jets, his interests in the defense sector are complicated by his substantial business dealings in China. SpaceX, for instance, has become a critical asset for the Pentagon, and Musk's financial ties to China, where Tesla operates a major manufacturing facility, add another layer of complexity to his potential access to sensitive information. The implications of Musk's Pentagon visit are echoed by bipartisan concerns from lawmakers like Senators Elizabeth Warren and Tammy Duckworth, who have called for transparency regarding the nature of Musk's meeting. In their letter to Hegseth, they seek clarification on whether the Pentagon altered its plans for the briefing following public scrutiny. As this narrative unfolds, the intersection of Musk's business interests and government advisory role will likely remain a focal point of discussion. The growing scrutiny of Musk's access to military intelligence highlights the delicate balance between innovation in defense and the ethical considerations of private sector involvement in national security. As the political landscape continues to evolve, the future of this relationship between the tech industry and government defense initiatives remains uncertain. With growing tensions in the Indo-Pacific region and ongoing concerns about security and privacy, the implications of Musk's role in shaping U.S. defense policy will be closely monitored by both supporters and critics alike. The outcomes of such interactions could set precedents that redefine the boundaries of influence between private entities and government operations in national security. In a significant shift in policy, President Donald Trump has announced a major reorganization of the U.S. Education Department, transferring key programs to other federal agencies. During a press conference from the Oval Office, Trump outlined his administration's plans to dismantle the Education Department by assigning its student loan portfolio to the Small Business Administration and relocating services for students with disabilities to the Health and Human Services Department. This move, which follows through on a long-standing campaign promise to reduce the federal government's footprint in education, is poised to create a ripple effect across the education landscape. Trump's announcement comes on the heels of a broader executive order aimed at eliminating the Department of Education entirely, a controversial decision that he plans to sign shortly. "We have a national crisis in education," Trump stated, pointing to declining test scores and what he described as a dysfunctional system. He emphasized that the new structure would empower parents and local communities while streamlining federal oversight, which he claims has been burdensome and ineffective. The reallocation of responsibilities raises questions about the future of federal funding for educational initiatives. Under Trump's order, funding for students with disabilities in low-income schools will supposedly remain intact, although critics argue that the administration's track record on educational equity raises doubts about this commitment. White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Harrison Fields asserted that the changes would improve outcomes for all students, while also blaming previous Democratic leadership for the current state of public education. Reaction to the proposed changes has been mixed. Advocates for public education fear that dismantling the Education Department could lead to a deterioration of support systems for vulnerable student populations. In contrast, some Republican leaders have expressed support, arguing that local control is essential for educational success. Notable Republican governors, including Ron DeSantis of Florida and Greg Abbott of Texas, are expected to attend the signing ceremony, signaling party unity on this contentious issue. Amid these developments, Trump also addressed ongoing immigration policies during his Oval Office remarks. He defended recent deportation flights to El Salvador, asserting that individuals sent back had undergone a very strong vetting process. However, families of deported Venezuelan immigrants have contested these claims, describing their loved ones as innocent of any criminal activity. In a related vein, the administration continues to face scrutiny over its handling of immigration cases and deportation protocols. A federal judge recently demanded clarification from the Justice Department regarding whether deportation flights violated his orders, illustrating the legal challenges that persist as Trump seeks to implement his policies. Meanwhile, Trump's close ally and tech mogul Elon Musk made headlines with his visit to the Pentagon, where he reportedly participated in discussions regarding national security and innovation. However, conflicting reports have emerged regarding whether Musk received a briefing on U.S. military plans concerning China. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Tammy Duckworth have since sought answers from the Defense Department about the nature of Musk's meeting, raising concerns about the appropriateness of private individuals receiving sensitive information. As the administration pursues its ambitious agenda, the implications of these sweeping changes to the Education Department and broader immigration policies will likely unfold in the coming months. With the landscape of education potentially shifting under the weight of new executive orders and the ongoing legal battles surrounding immigration, observers are left wondering how these developments will shape the political and social fabric of the nation. The administration's ability to navigate the complexities of these changes, coupled with the looming 2024 presidential election, will be critical in determining the future trajectory of Trump's policies and their reception by the American public. In a significant shift in U.S. educational policy, President Donald Trump announced today that key programs from the Department of Education will be transferred to other federal agencies. During remarks from the Oval Office, Trump stated that the Small Business Administration (SBA) will take over the management of the Education Department's student loan portfolio, while the Department of Health and Human Services (HHS) will assume responsibility for services pertaining to students with disabilities. This decision is part of Trump's broader effort to dismantle the Education Department, an agency that has been instrumental in overseeing national education policy since its establishment in 1979. Trump's announcement comes after his executive order to dismantle the Department of Education which many view as a controversial move that could lead to significant changes in how education is managed across the country. The president emphasized the need for a very strong vetting process for those who will be affected by these changes, particularly regarding the student loan and disability services sectors. "We will continue that process. We don't want to make that kind of a mistake," he asserted. Critics of the administration's decision have raised alarms about the implications of transferring education responsibilities to agencies that may lack the necessary expertise and focus on educational issues. While the executive order can initiate the dismantling process, complete elimination of the department would require congressional approval. A significant hurdle given the current political landscape. Responses from the public have been sharply divided. Many educators and advocates fear that the loss of the Department of Education will lead to reduced support for underprivileged schools and students. A Reddit user noted, "I work at a Title I school, so I'm terrified. I'm already seeing the school prepare to let people go," highlighting concerns about the potential loss of funding for crucial programs. Others expressed skepticism about the effectiveness of moving educational responsibilities to the SBA and HHS, with one commenter warning that the system they want to replace it with is unregulated private schools teaching whatever wild nonsense they want. In related news, tech billionaire and Trump advisor Elon Musk visited the Pentagon earlier today, where discussions were expected to include topics of government efficiency and innovation amid speculation about military strategies concerning China. However, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth later denied reports suggesting that Musk was briefed on U.S. war plans, emphasizing that the meeting focused on innovation rather than military strategy. This has raised questions among lawmakers, including Senators Elizabeth Warren and Tammy Duckworth, who are demanding clarity on Musk's access to sensitive information. Furthermore, the administration is facing scrutiny regarding ongoing deportation flights to El Salvador, with a federal judge demanding answers from the Justice Department about whether these flights have violated his orders. The administration continues to assert that deported individuals underwent a rigorous vetting process, despite reports from families of those being deported disputing these claims. As Trump's administration continues to reshape federal policies, the implications of these moves regarding education, immigration, and military policy remain to be seen. The upcoming legislative sessions, particularly as Congress evaluates the administration's proposals, will be crucial in determining the future landscape of these critical sectors. With tensions rising not only domestically but also in international relations, the actions taken now could have lasting repercussions on the country's socio-political fabric. Future developments are expected as stakeholders from various sectors respond to these significant policy shifts. The early months of Donald Trump's presidency have been marked by a tumultuous economic environment characterized by growing uncertainty among investors and consumers alike. Despite his promises of ushering in a golden age for the American economy, recent developments have left many questioning the effectiveness of his policies. As the administration prepares to unveil new tariffs and implement significant cuts to the federal workforce, analysts are raising alarms about the potential fallout. Trump's administration has already imposed a series of tariffs on imports from various countries, including Canada, Mexico, and China. These measures were intended to create a reciprocal trade environment wherein the U.S. would impose tariffs similar to those applied by other nations on American goods. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has hinted at a Dirty 15 list of countries likely to face the brunt of Trump's next wave of tariffs, which are set to be unveiled on April 2. The stakes are high, with some economists warning that these tariffs could result in tax increases of 50% or more on certain key products, sending shockwaves through the market. Rick Newman, a senior columnist for Yahoo Finance, notes that the reality of these tariffs may be more severe than investors are currently anticipating. Markets have already underestimated the severity of Trump's tariffs, he writes, suggesting that the upcoming measures could be a major surprise for businesses and consumers alike as the administration pushes forward with its plans. Layoffs within the federal workforce are expected to impact employment data in the coming months. Trump has expressed a nonchalant attitude towards these cuts, viewing them as mere bureaucratic reductions. However, the ripple effects could extend beyond government jobs, affecting contractors and businesses that rely on federal funding. The uncertainty surrounding these changes has already begun to impact consumer sentiment, with many Americans expressing concerns about job security and the overall economic outlook. The president's aggressive approach to both tariffs and government spending cuts appears to be undermining the initial optimism that accompanied his election. A recent Fox News poll revealed that 56% of registered voters disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy, a sharp decline from his previous approval ratings during his first term. Furthermore, Trump's approval rating related to inflation is particularly troubling, with 58% of respondents disapproving of his management of this critical issue. Economists warn that the combination of tariffs and budget cuts could lead to an economic slowdown or even a recession. Former Labor Secretary Robert Reich has pointed out that the economy is showing severe warning signs after just a month under Trump's policies. These concerns are echoed by many analysts who argue that tariffs are not an effective long-term solution for economic revitalization and could lead to more harm than good. In contrast, Trump's administration seems undeterred by the growing discontent. While acknowledging a potential period of transition, officials maintain that the long-term benefits of their policies will outweigh any immediate challenges. Trump's recent shift in rhetoric, from promising immediate economic improvement to admitting that there may be a period of pain, reflects a growing recognition of the challenges ahead. This marks a significant departure from his earlier assertions that his policies would yield instantaneous results. As the administration grapples with these pressing economic issues, the implications for Trump's political future remain uncertain. With midterm elections on the horizon, the stakes are higher than ever. A faltering economy could have dire repercussions for Republican candidates seeking to maintain control of Congress. Trump's willingness to gamble on his economic strategy raises questions not only about the future of his presidency but also the potential fallout for the Republican Party as a whole. In the coming weeks, as the administration rolls out its new tariffs and implements significant workforce reductions, the economic landscape will likely continue to shift. Investors, businesses, and consumers will be closely monitoring these developments, hoping for signs of stability in what has been a turbulent beginning to Trump's second term. In a surprising turn of events, the Pentagon recently scheduled a briefing for Elon Musk regarding the U.S. military strategies in the event of a conflict with China. This meeting, which was set for March 21, 2025, has raised eyebrows and ignited debates around the implications of granting a private citizen access to highly classified military operations, especially one who is also a major defense contractor. According to multiple U.S. officials, the briefing was expected to focus specifically on military plans related to a potential war with China. However, following the publication of this news by the New York Times, both Pentagon officials and President Donald Trump hastily denied any such discussions would take place. China will not even be mentioned or discussed, Trump asserted in a late-night social media post, further complicating the narrative surrounding Musk's involvement. The significance of this meeting cannot be overstated. As the CEO of SpaceX and Tesla, Musk already plays a crucial role in U.S. defense, providing essential services and products to the Pentagon. His extensive business interests, particularly in China, also raise serious questions about potential conflicts of interest. Musk's connection to the defense sector is particularly pronounced, as SpaceX has secured billions in contracts with the U.S. military and intelligence agencies, including substantial funding for satellite systems deemed vital for national security. Understanding the nature of the Pentagon's operational plans, referred to as OPLANs, can be challenging for those outside the military's planning circles. These documents, which detail strategies for various conflict scenarios, are among the most closely guarded secrets in military operations. A briefing on such sensitive information for someone not in the military chain of command is unprecedented and could set a concerning precedent for future interactions between the government and private sector. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and other senior military officials were reportedly prepared to present Musk with detailed insights into U.S. strategies against China. The plan includes various contingencies and operational tactics that, if disclosed to a foreign adversary, could significantly undermine their effectiveness. The appropriateness of Musk being privy to such information has been called into question, especially given that he is not a formal advisor on military matters, nor does he operate within the military's structured decision-making framework. Critics of Musk's access to military strategies have highlighted the ethical implications of a private individual receiving such sensitive briefings. Todd Harrison, a defense strategy expert, remarked Musk at a war planning briefing. Giving the CEO of one defense company unique access seems like this could be grounds for a contract protest and is a real conflict of interest. This sentiment is echoed by several lawmakers, including Senators Elizabeth Warren and Tammy Duckworth, who have demanded clarity from the Pentagon regarding the nature of Musk's briefing and the measures in place to mitigate conflicts of interest. The backdrop to this controversy is the ongoing geopolitical tensions with China, which have prompted the Pentagon to prioritize contingency planning for a potential conflict. Discussions surrounding U.S. military capabilities have intensified, particularly in areas such as space warfare, where advancements in satellite technology are crucial. Musk's Starlink satellite network, which has been pivotal for U.S. military communications, further complicates the situation, as it ties his business interests directly to national defense strategies. As the situation unfolds, the implications of Musk's interactions with the Pentagon could resonate across various sectors. The incident has sparked a wider conversation about the intersection of technology, defense, and ethics in an era marked by rapid advancements and increasing complexity in global relations. The coming weeks are likely to yield further developments as lawmakers continue to scrutinize Musk's role and the administration's military strategies in light of these revelations. In this rapidly evolving landscape, the relationship between government and private industry will be tested, and the repercussions of this briefing could set precedents for how future collaborations are conducted, particularly in an age where national security and corporate interests increasingly intertwine. In a world where diplomatic relations are increasingly complex and fraught with tension. Former President Donald Trump's approach to international negotiations has come under scrutiny for resembling a game of broken telephone. This week, as Trump embarks on crucial talks regarding the ongoing crisis in Ukraine, the discrepancies between U.S. interpretations of diplomatic discussions and the actual outcomes have raised concerns about the efficacy and clarity of his diplomatic style. On Tuesday, Trump engaged in a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, later announcing a supposed agreement on a partial ceasefire focusing on energy and infrastructure targets. However, shortly after, a drone strike on a Ukrainian hospital highlighted the stark contrast between Trump's optimistic assertions and the grim realities of the situation. While the U.S. claimed a halt on attacks against civilian structures, Russia's account suggested otherwise, indicating that only energy infrastructure would be spared, leaving other civilian sites vulnerable. The ensuing confusion prompted White House press secretary to deflect questions about the call's specifics, leaving many to wonder whether Trump had misinterpreted the discussions. Adding to the turmoil, Trump proposed an American-led privatization of Ukrainian power plants as a means of enhancing security for Ukraine, a move that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky quickly countered, stating that there was no prior discussion about ownership of the plants, which are considered national property. In a bid to mitigate misunderstandings, Zelensky announced plans to send negotiators to Riyadh to clarify the terms of a potential ceasefire, emphasizing the need for precise definitions in light of Trump's often hyperbolic representation of diplomatic conversations. This echoes the pattern observed in previous interactions, including an infamous 2019 call between Trump and Zelensky, which was described by Trump as perfect despite its implications involving politically motivated investigations. As Trump's diplomacy unfolds, it increasingly appears that he seeks to control the narrative surrounding his discussions with foreign leaders. The lack of transparency regarding the presence of key advisors during these calls raises further questions about the accuracy of the information being relayed to the public and the potential impact on international relations. The stakes are particularly high in the upcoming talks set for Riyadh, where U.S. negotiators will face seasoned Russian diplomats, including former FSB officials with extensive experience in negotiation. Observers have noted that the U.S. delegation may be at a disadvantage given the contrasting levels of experience and strategic acumen. As the international community watches closely, Trump's recent comments about a potential summit with Chinese leader Xi Jinping further complicate matters. Trump hinted at a desire for a meeting, yet the Chinese government remains uncertain about what the U.S. president hopes to achieve. Analysts suggest that China is keen to avoid further escalation in the ongoing trade war, which has already seen the imposition of significant tariffs by the Trump administration. Beijing's attempts to engage with U.S. officials have been met with ambiguity, raising concerns about whether diplomatic channels are effectively conveying messages to Trump. Norwegian Foreign Vice Minister Andreas Kravik has recently pointed out the necessity for Europe and China to collaborate more closely in the face of U.S. retreat from multilateralism. This sentiment echoes a growing recognition that global challenges cannot be effectively addressed without engaging China, regardless of the tensions that may exist. As Trump navigates these turbulent waters, the implications of his diplomatic style are becoming increasingly clear. The potential for misunderstandings and miscommunications could have lasting effects on international relations, particularly in regions already fraught with tension. The coming weeks will be critical as negotiations unfold, and the world waits to see whether Trump can bridge the gaps in communication that threaten to derail progress.